Alright, y'all. Hey, how y'all doing? Let's talk about Josh Barnett's Bloodsport 6. I finally sat down and watched this show. It aired April the 8th, same day as TakeOver. So it was bad form to throw a pay-per-view of any kind at the same time TakeOver was on. That's why I gave it so much time to do it. But I managed to stay mostly unspoiled before I sat down and watched this match. Bloodsport, for people you don't know, is basically worked MMA. There are no pinfalls. There is only submission and knockout, and basically knockout is decided by the referee. So the referee, after a big move, basically says, "Oh, you're out," and then that's it. But there was 12 fights on this show. This show was great. Now, you probably could have took 3 of the fights off, and this show would have been phenomenal. But this show was great. It was headlined by Jon Moxley versus Josh Barnett. Josh Barnett, if you don't know, the War Master, former UFC champion. He used to do commentary for New Japan Pro Wrestling. He now runs this promotion. It's I think it's a quarterly book, you know, where he does these things quarterly with Game Changers Wrestling. But this is basically worked MMA. And so let's do this. So the first fight was Janai Kai versus KZT, aka Karen Tran. Now, the first thing I noticed here is Janai Kai came out to a song that actually had melody to it. Because a lot of this music that was on this show was just generic rock noise. Like generic, what you call it, grunge punk, where people are just screaming and all the guitars sound the same and all the drums sound the same. Janai Kai came out to some very groovy, almost reggae-like song. And that's what made it stand out to me. Because it was the first song I heard. So I was like, what is that? And then everything else after this was like, and all the drums and everything sounded the same. But this was a classic. Janai Kai was not a classic match. I'm talking about a classic, maybe clash of styles. The striker versus the ground wrestler. KZT was the ground wrestler. Janai Kai was a striker. And KZT basically kept her on the ground. A lot of grappling and ended up winning the match by submission with a triangle armbar. At least I think that's what it was. I'm trying to go off my memory here. So it was a good match. There was some real strong kicks by Janai Kai, especially from the flat of the foot. Some solid forearms and open hand slaps. KZT did pretty good too, except she had one shitty guillotine that I didn't really care for. But other than that, it was pretty sweet. You know, this match was not bad. The second match was tremendous though. This was the second best match of the night. This was Matt Makowski versus Hedy Karawi. Let's see. Let's try that one more time. Hedy Karawi. Either way, this was 2 grapplers. This was a grappling clinic. There was a lot of tremendous transitions through this match. I don't even have any examples to give you. I just think everybody should go watch this because it was a wonderful arm toss just at the beginning from Karawi, and it was just tremendous how these guys just kept slipping into each other's arm, trying to get head and arm chokes, trying to get arm bars, and guys was getting out of it. It was excellent. You know, it was excellent. Karawi actually got the guy in the rings of Saturn. It looked a little bit like an omoplata, but it wasn't quite the same. An omoplata is when you do rings of Saturn with the arms or something like that. So Makowski wins by submission by doing a headlock into a German roll. And from there, he kind of picked him up. And he rolled him into an armbar finish, which is pretty fucking sweet. I know most people are kind of be like, "Whoa, what does that mean?" You kind of have to see it. Like, that's the thing about grappling is you kind of have to see it in order to fully envision it. But let's think about, like, the guy, basically, he didn't do a German suplex. He kind of pulled him back like he was going to, except he rolled all the way through and then put him in an arm bar. So it was pretty sweet. Like, it was pretty fucking cool. On the third match, Victor Benjamin was defeated by Bad Dude Tito. Victor Benjamin was, pushed out there as a striker, a guy who likes to strike, and Tito was basically a brawler with a superior ground game. There was a pretty nice attempt at a roundhouse kick by Victor Benjamin, and his foot got caught, and he got countered into a heel hook, which is how he ended up losing. He ended up losing by submission. So that wasn't bad. You know, it was pretty good. Next match was Simon Grimm versus Alexander James. James was pushed as the King of Fight, a German wrestler, a German MMA fighter / wrestler or whatever. Simon Grimm, a.k.a. Bitch Tits, is the same guy that Enzo got into it with. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of when I think of him as Bitch Tits. So James did get an omoplata in this match. And Simon Grimm gave him a couple of headbutts to get out of it, you know, which was, you know, pretty nutty, you know. So the finish came with a butterfly suplex into a double wrist lock, which is some people call a Kimura. So just think of it like a, you know, he suplexed him over, and then from there he just kind of transitioned into a double wrist lock. It was pretty fucking sweet. And Simon Grimm won by submission. It wasn't a bad match at all. The fifth match was Royce Isaacs versus Alec Coughlin. This was a rematch from their previous match. In their previous match, Alec Coughlin lost because Royce Isaacs targeted his head and neck or whatever, and while he had an injured head and neck, and basically forced him to give up. In this one, though, Alex Coughlin actually won by submission. He won with a standing heel hook into a single leg Boston Crab position. So it was pretty vicious. And this match had a real story. Like, because you had Coughlin come in, a house of fire. He was pissed because of how he had gotten screwed over in the first match. And so he was like, okay, he came in ready to tear Royce Isaacs apart. I do wonder if Royce Isaacs is going back to the NWA or not. Like, I don't think I've seen him yet as far as the tapings are concerned. So I'm really beginning to worry, is he actually going to go back or not? But this match was very solid. And now they're 1-1 against each other. After the match, after Alex Coughlin won, he gave Royce Isaacs the finger. And basically saying, like, we're 1-1 now. So, you know, I expect to run this back. And I like the idea, like, this very rarely, like, do they have threads that string from one show to the other, because it's not really a storyline driven product. It is a in-ring fight driven product. So, you know, very rarely would they have, I mean, of course there's going to be the story of, hey, last time you were here, you lost. Hey, last time you were here, you won. Hey, here's your record in here. But there's very little, you know, there's no promos. Nobody cuts a promo on this show, except for at the end, where the winner of the main event cuts a promo, and maybe the opponent does too. So it's like you're not building a character here. You're basically going to do a athletic masturbation. You go in there and you do some athletic stuff, and then that's about it. So the next match was Super Beast, the guy who looks like Bane, versus Shlak, who was, I was told, is a deathmatch weirdo. And I think I may have seen him in some of his stupid death matches. And they talked about his stupid deathmatch experience. And I thought this match was going to be big sweaty men slapping meat. So I was kind of like, okay, let's see what we got here. So they tangled up a little bit. They didn't tangle up a lot. And then Shlak starts to bleed. And while they doing like the little hockey fight, for you don't know what hockey fighting is when, you know, you're holding each other's heads and punching. And then Shlak starts to bite Super Beast on his boot. While they end up on the ground, and Shlak starts to bite. Biting is illegal in Bloodsport. Dead sport. In Bloodsport. It's one of the many things that is illegal. Now, they do a good job of telling you up front, small joint manipulation. So like, Pete Dunne's finger bending, that's illegal in Bloodsport. Eye, throat, ear manipulations are illegal. And not letting your opponent enter back into the ring is illegal. And biting is illegal. And clawing, fish hooking, etc. is illegal. So he bites, and Shlak gets disqualified. And I think this was announced as the first Bloodsport disqualification, I believe. And so Super Beast wins by DQ, and Shlak wants to continue to fight. And the crowd is chanting, "Let them fight, let them fight." But you know, this is a very rules-driven promotion, so they're like, "No, we're not going to let this guy continue to fight, even because he's leaking by this point. He's bleeding like a sieve. This Schlack fella, she's bleeding all over the place, and he wants to fight. He's fired up. And Super Beast wants to fight too, but there's like referees and officials all in the ring like, no, 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 you can't do it. No, you're not going to do that. So this was a waste of everybody's time, but I think they're going to build towards something else here, and they're going to try their hand at telling a story in the Bloodsport arena, so that ought to be fine. Next match was Masha Slamovic versus Allison K. Slimovich is such a pro wrestling name. That doesn't even sound in any way real. It doesn't sound like any way real. It sounds like something you play on a video game. Masha Slamovich, like Starman, and one of them, and he had like a star mask. It's like, it sounds very generic, like generic German or whatever, generic Russian or whatever. Anyway, she wrestled Allison K. And Allison K, this match was just meh. You know, like Slamovich was a decent submission-based wrestler, but they were mostly 50-50 in this match. It was mostly, you know, them just trading holds on each other or trying to get each other in holds and failing. So it wasn't really much to it. Like, we really didn't need this. But the finish came with a triangle choke and strikes. So she was a head and arm capture by Allison K with her legs. And then with her palm of her hand, she was kind of striking Masha in the top of the head. So it wasn't bad, but it wasn't particularly good either. It was just okay. Now, what it was fun was the next match, which is Yo-Yo, who was 5'2", versus Lio Rush, who came out dressed like Kurt Angle. And not necessarily dressed like Kurt Angle. He was wearing amateur wrestling gear, though. Where, you know, the tights similar to the tights Kurt Angle would wear. And this is where I realized that Lio Rush came out to his own theme song. And it sucks. He got a song called Man of the Hour. It's awful. It's awful. And this is, if you heard Jeff Hardy's theme song in TNA, modest to the top, boom, 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 modest at the top, and then it goes into those really garbage lyrics. Like, that's a really terrible song. Like, legitimately bad. This song was worse. I'm the man of the hour. I'm the man with the power. I'm in the power. Ha ha! I'm the man of the hour. I'm the man with the power. I'm like, man, shit. But this was an exhibition in speed and agility and technique. And Lio Rush surprised the fuck out of me. You know, because he actually did a lot of good wrestling stuff in this fight. He even bridged out of a rear naked choke at one point, which I thought was pretty sweet. You know, there was a lot of speed exchanges between the two of them where they would just basically test how fast they were. But you also had a guy where Lio Rush was wrestling a guy smaller than he is. So Lio Rush is probably like 5'6", maybe. That's probably pushing it. But Yo-Yo's only 5'2". So he was able to do like belly-to-belly suplexes on him. And he did like a belly-to-belly suplex and then pulled the stripes down like he was Kurt Angle. He did some interesting things. Like he still did some cruiserweight stuff too, because he did like a flip outside the ring. And so Lio Rush wins by submission with an anaconda vice after a Spanish fly. So it was like a standing Spanish fly. And then he does right into the anaconda vice. It was a great fucking finish. This match was really fun. This was match 8 of a 12-match card. And this was fun. This was fun as shit. Yo-Yo and Lio Rush. Fun as shit. The next match was KTB versus Davey Boy Smith Jr., which is essentially a squash match. Davey Boy Smith Jr. wins by powerbomb. So basically he powerbombed KTB, and the ref was like, oh no, he's dead. I can't possibly let him take any more damage. And this match was probably... This was the shortest match up to this point. This match was probably roughly 5 minutes, roughly. But it did what it was supposed to do. It went in there and put Davey Boy Smith Jr. over. So match 10, Rocky Romero versus Chavo Guerrero Jr. This was excellent. I don't, you know what? I couldn't tell you the last time I saw Chavo wrestle. You know, I really couldn't tell you. I think it might have been some TNA pay-per-view. But I tell you, he looked good here. And Rocky Romero, who I'm not really a fan of, he also looked good here. And I've been paying attention to a lot to Chavo. He's been doing stunt coordinating. He did it for Glow. He's also been doing it for Heels. And he talked about how hard it is to be a stunt coordinator, and that it's actually harder than being a wrestler. Because he says that, hey, as a wrestler, it's pretty much improv. You get one take, you do it all, and that's it. When you're doing stunt coordination, you have to do it again and again and again. Because you have to get the lights right. You have to get the right shot. You have to do these things over and over and over again. You know, wrestling is easier because you could do it one take, and that's it. So, but, you know, I'm glad he's been keeping busy. Chavo's like 50 now, maybe even older. So, Rocky Romero also comes out to his own theme, but it's not as trash as Leo Rush, so it's acceptable. Chavo came out to his WWE theme, which I thought was pretty nice. It was a nice little head nod. Like, we're not forgetting who he is. And, of course, there was some Eddie chants. There's a lot of people who was happy it was actually Chavo. And then, of course, later in the match, people started chanting for Eddie. But Rocky Romero started this match, and wrestled this match pretty aggressively. Because one of the things is Chavo has been inactive for a long time. So, but he's got a lot of experience. So you're in a situation where you're catching up with a laxed opponent, where, you know, you want to know how far has he fallen from his perch as he's been doing other things and not focusing on wrestling. So this was pretty cool for that. And I really enjoyed this match. You know, Chavo ended up he wasn't wrestling like a traditional submission style wrestler here. He was trying to wrestle pretty much like a grappler. So, you know, and that's pretty much what Rocky Romero was doing a lot of grappling. So the finish came with Chavo trying to do the Three Amigos. He did one, and then had to, you know, then he got two, and then Rocky Romero kind of escaped it, you know. And we, you know, the commentators even put it over like, hey, yeah, you know, you become successful and you're as successful and nationally known as Chavo Guerrero. People memorize your move list. They know what you're trying to do. And he still manages to get the third suplex in a little bit later after, but it was more like a brain buster. And after this brain buster, it was more like a fisherman buster, if we're being honest. Then afterwards, the referee stopped it. The referee stopped the match because Rocky Romero could not respond after he had gotten caught with this fisherman suplex buster or whatever. So this was very solid. And I really enjoyed it. It was kind of a quirky finish, but I really enjoyed it. Rocky Romero was essentially dominating the match. And then out of nowhere, Chavo hits a couple of big moves, and that was it. That's all they needed to happen. And I was impressed. You know, I was impressed by Chavo. So the next match had the best music. It was Chris Dickinson versus Shane Mercer. So Shane Mercer comes out to Demons by Tech Nine and 3-6 Mafia. A tremendous song. That song is dope. Please go listen to that. That's a dope ass song. I love Tech Nine. That was from the album King of Darkness, I think. Chris Dickinson came out to Puff Daddy and Biggie's Victory. A classic. You know, not a cult classic, an absolute. Everybody's heard of this song. It's classic. But this match was very good, too. This is probably the third best match on the show. And Dickinson was basically, you know, trying to show off his wrestling skills and found that Shane Mercer had some, too. There was some decent throws by Mercer. The classic story of strength, but inexperience versus technique and experience. So Mercer had the strength, but he had never done anything like this before. But Dickinson has been on every Bloodsport. So he not only knows all about this stuff, but he's known what he could take. So this was excellent. This was very good too. The main event though was the show couldn't be the show stealer because you can't steal the show from the main event. But Josh Barnett and John Moxley went in there and basically carved each other up with axes. You know, Moxley showed me a lot in this match though. He showed me a lot when it comes to how he puts his, how much effort he puts in other places and how he puts in effort here. I think this is more his speed and this is more what he wants to do. Because he seems very excited to come and do these kinds of things. And it's very interesting. So the storyline going into this match is that Moxley is a tough son of a bitch. While Josh Barnett is not only the guy whose name is on the book, but is also a former UFC champion. So, Moxley's well in over his head. And these two guys go in there and have a hell of a match. They basically told the story of Moxley would do anything to win. Moxley broke pretty much every rule. He bit, he fish hooked. He did as much as he could to break the rules and mess with the crowd and mess with Josh Barnett. And, he even bloodied Josh Barnett. I forgot what he bloodied him with, but when Josh Barnett retaliated with the elbow strikes, the elbow strikes caused the blood on John Moxley. So it was, this was very good. There was an attempt at a DDT. He used his, which of course got stuffed. He used the bulldog choke and transitioned it to what's called the gift wrap, or what they call the gift wrap when you end up getting trapped in a submission hold, usually around the head and your arms are trapped too. There was a Death Valley driver, followed by, some pretty severe looking head stomps by Barnett that led to the match being stopped. So after a Death Valley driver and, not intelligently defending himself and being stomped in the head, John Moxley lost this match. And you know what? Of course, he can never actually be hurt by this, because it's like, so what? It's a business nobody watches. Who cares, But this is really good, fun stuff. And this match ruled. This was the match on this show that was the best. The second match was also very good, but this one, of course, exceeded expectations because of the blood and how they got the blood. They didn't do the blood with the razor blade. At least I don't believe they did. I think they might have legitimately used an elbow or two to cause the bleeding. And so, we get after the match, we get a post-match promo where Josh Barnett basically says, oh yeah, we don't do this for the money. We do it for the love of wrestling. And, we fight from our hearts and all this type of stuff. And people started chanting, thank you, Moxley. And then Moxley took the microphone and said, I'm going to say something on this show. I'm going to say something. And then Barnett was like, thank you for the match, John Moxley. And John Moxley was like, fuck you, you tried to kill me. That's just a guy having a lot of fun out there. So then basically talking about, Moxley said that, this ain't about catchphrases and, corporate shit. Everybody that steps in the ring because they love pro wrestling is what they want to do. And, the old stuff about guys giving their heart and soul out there, leaving it all in the ring, doing the best they could. And, it went off on a pretty high note where, you had John Moxley, who everybody came to see. He lost, but he didn't look bad in defeat. It was a combination of being dropped on his head in a Death Valley driver and then having his head stomped. So, it was a good match. It was a good night of matches from Bloodsport. It was a fun event. If you can catch a review somewhere or a preview somewhere, it ought to be fun. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to the channel. Use the hashtag 3ConCommentary to support the channel. In the description box will be the links to my Twitter, my Cash App, and Subscribe-Star. If you want to send money and you want to send it via Subscribe-Star, that would be appreciated. If you want to send it via Cash App, that works too. Thank you guys for your time and your interest in this product. And I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out.